Samir Woods was born July 31st, 1995 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was raised there and would later go on to be known as Lil Uzi Vert, a legend in the SoundCloud era of rap. It's been a very wild year for this artist, from dropping the most polarizing album yet to even contemplating retirement. I think it's time we discuss the full discography of Lil Uzi Vert. The rules for this video are as follows. All projects are considered. That includes mixtapes, EPs, albums, collab albums, and in the case of Uzi Deluxe versions, those only count if they're considered a different project. Also, EPs only count if they have original music, so Pink Tape Level 1 will not count for this video. Uzi steps into a lot of genres, so we're only going to judge the songs and albums based on what genre he's going for. So if he's going for a metal song, we'll judge on metal song standards. There are 13 projects that are eligible for this video, so we're going to discuss them by release date and out of 10. And at the end, we're going to decide which one is the best, which one is the worst, and overall discuss his discography and see if it's really that good. We are going to be using a weight system, so on the scale, each project is going to be worth something different depending on how important they are to the overall discography. His solo albums are considered the most important and will hold about 55% of the overall end score. They hold the most weight because they're the most important way to discuss an artist, because their solo projects are what most people come for anyway. Mixtapes are 25% of the overall grade, as I think they're also very important, but they're just not as important as a studio album because most of them they're not as polished. Collab tapes only hold 10%, and they're only graded on what the artists we're discussing did on the tape, as I don't think it's fair if the other artist on the collab tape fails to bring or deliver, while the one that we're discussing carries. EPs only hold 10% as well, as they're most of the time just small projects to keep fans waiting for their bigger projects. If a song releases on a mixtape or EP before a studio project, all of the projects that it released on will make it worth less, as I think it's the only way to compare the song, because most of the time they're the exact same song with maybe a little bit of a tweak. If a song releases as a single before a project, aka Just Wanna Rock, we will only count it towards the album it goes on, as I don't think it's really fair to compare it as a single, as most of the time the single will do better than the overall album. With the rules out of the way, we can now officially start with the first project, which is the EP Purple Thoughts Volume 1 was the first project Uzi released in January of 2014. With 8 songs, it isn't really anything special. The only song I think is actually good and fits Uzi's future projection is Did It On My Own. It has the dark beats that we know Uzi goes hard on, but other than that, this is a very forgettable project. About 4 out of 10. There's a lot of room to improve. He doesn't have any of the distinctive sounds that he normally has later on, so it's really not much to come back to for this, other than the novelty that this is his first project. The Real Uzi would be later released in August of 2014. It's the last project released before he would sign with Atlantic Records. With 17 songs and features from A$AP Ant and Gilly the Kid, as well as hosted by producer Don Cannon, you can tell Uzi has already started gaining industry connections. Unfortunately, the length of this project really drags it down. If it was cut down to about 10 to 12 songs, it probably would be enjoyable, but there's way too much filler on this album. Some standouts include the Uzi intro, which is really good. It has an energetic verse from Uzi. We On It, as Lee Mason had a really good and memorable verse. And Whippin' with a chill hook from A$AP Ant and really sounds like what Uzi would eventually sound like really soon. 4 out of 10. Pretty mid, but has a lot to improve from. Love Is Rage would release as the first project Uzi had under Atlantic Records and would start what fans called the classic era of his music, or the Love era. This era encapsulates the rise and prime of Uzi. This project getting outstanding production from Don Cannon again, Molly Raw, TM88, and Lex Luthor. Love Is Rage is an earworm for audiences of melodic trap, with huge hits such as 7 AM and Top are definitely highlights on here. Paradise and Enemies being personal favorites of mine. The only lowlights for me are Safe House, Banned from TV, and Right Now, all being very forgettable. The increase in production and the overall aesthetic is really good, and this is where Uzi is finally finding himself as an artist. I give this project a 7.5 out of 10. If Love Is Rage started this era, Lil Uzi Vert versus the World kicked it into high gear. With smash hits like Money Longer, You Was Right, and P's and Q's, this album was a massive success. Releasing April 15, 2016, the same year he would later be put on the XXL Freshman list, it was a huge year for Uzi as he finally managed to break into the mainstream of rap. Once again, the production was done by Don Cannon, Metro Boomin, a newcomer, and Cub Beats, just to name a few, as this project really came to life. For me, what drags this project down is its length. It's super fast, with barely being half an hour. 34 minutes breezes by too fast for any of the songs to really hit as much as they should. Unfortunately, Scott and Ramona, the song that's pretty much the whole album based around, doesn't really end the project very well. It feels like a middle of the road type of song. And if you had used any of the bigger hits to end the project, it probably would have been a well better ending to it. Despite those flaws, it's still an 8 out of 10 project to me. Released a couple months later, the Perfect Love Tape continued the streak of great Uzi projects. This time having features from Playboi Carti and Future adding more spice to the pot. Do What I Want and Erase Your Socials both being huge highlights of the project, my personal favorite being 7 Millions featuring Future, as the Ronnie J production is really good in that song. Unfortunately, just like the last project, this one is just a little too short. 33 minutes goes by way too fast. And not all of the songs hit as hard, at least as the last one. Most of them did. This one has a lot of lowlights, such as Original Uzi and Rhonda Winters. Both pretty not that interesting. Especially the Ronda Rousey song, where she would eventually lose right before, right after the song came out. Not aging it very well. Overall, the project is solid, but it's still a step back from what came before. I wouldn't say it's a bad project, but I wouldn't say it's a great project either. About a 7 out of 10 for me.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
A collab tape between Lil Uzi Vert and Gucci Mane released in November of 2016 and the final project of that year. With 7 songs, there's not much here to listen to. Neither Gucci Mane or Uzi are at their best here, and I would honestly rather listen to anything else from them separately or even together, because this is just a very forgettable project. The only good song on here is Secure the Bag, not to be mistaken from the song Eternal to Take or the Fire Leak that also came out earlier this year. Overall, it's about a 2 out of 10. Nothing too special at all. Released February of 2017, this EP is only remembered for being the one to introduce us to EXO Tour Life, Uzi's biggest song. Not to discredit it, all 4 songs are really good on this project, especially Boring Shit, which is my personal favorite. But other than that, this project isn't super memorable, other than giving us EXO Tour Life. 8 out of 10.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
I'm just going to cut to the chase. This is Uzi's magnum opus. This is his best project by a mile, in my opinion. The base album with 16 songs and 56 minutes is the perfect runtime and has classic after classic. I still remember when me and my brother got in the car and put this on and we're jamming through the whole time of a road trip. Shit was so fun. After every song, we would just be like, damn, he really did that shit. There's a song for everyone. If you want an emotional song, like EXO Tour Life and Dark Queen, my personal favorite Uzi track. Club bangers like 20 Minutes or No Sleep Leak, or your chill songs like How to Talk and Neon Guts. This is an easy 10 out of 10. I don't think any other project can even stand up to it anywhere close. This is really good. Unfortunately, Uzi would have to deal with record label problems and would cause us to wait 3 years for the next project, which is, after record label problems, many leaks, and even many versions of the same album, we finally got Eternal to Take after nearly 3 years of waiting. It felt like we would never get this project, but on March 6th, as a surprise drop, we'd finally get the project. And to many people, it was a really middling response. Many people loved it, many people didn't like it, but it really showed on the charts that it was really popular and that the 3 years wait really showed that he hadn't fallen off yet. At least not commercially. This project brought in a new experimental era of Uzi, bringing in new sounds and new production into his projects that we hadn't seen before. The album took over the charts at the time, with songs like Lo Mein, Baby Pluto, Silly Watch, and many others dropped and being in the top 10 at all at the same time. Once again, the length is a problem. I think this is one of his biggest problems with his projects. They're either too short or they're too long. Like this one, I don't think it needs to be 18 songs long. Like songs like Pop and You Better Move are very forgettable and could easily be off this track list. Overall, I give this project a 7 out of 10. It's a bit of a drop off from what was the magnum opus of his career, but at least it was a decent enough comeback. Hopefully, what came out a week later can be much better than this. Released a week later, Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World 2 improves over the base album that is the deluxe towards. Uzi dropping 14 more songs a week later that all went charting was a huge moment in 2020. Having solid features from Chief Keef, Future, Lil Durk, and Young Thug, making this project stand out a lot more as they originally had one feature. Starting with this project, Uzi would finally start releasing leaked songs that we all heard before the albums even came out. My personal favorite being Come This Way, being one of my favorite leaks. It was a real highlight for me hearing it for the first time being official. Overall, I give this project a 7.5 out of 10. There's some real highlights, but some real lowlights as well. Oh, every time, bro, it's the same shit again. Like, every time I talk about this complaint, it's the same thing the next project. Like, Uzi's not a bad feature artists, but it really sucks when he tries to do collab tapes because not one of them has been good. Uzi and Future dropped this project in July of 2020, as well as a deluxe version in November of the same year, and both versions are very disappointing. I'm just going to tell you the highlights because it seems like Future didn't care about this project. Those being Drink and Smoking, Stripes on Burberry, Baby Sasuke, Heart Pieces, Patek, and Over Your Head. 7 songs out of 24. So disappointing. 4 out of 10. Uzi cared on this project, and it was really still forgettable. This EP that was dropped in the summer of 2022 has 10 songs. Once again, waiting for their next big project, Pink Tape, Uzi released this 10-song EP, and the project is pretty solid, officially releasing famous leaks such as Flex Up, Final Fantasy, and Believe Me. But the best and biggest that came from this was For Fun, and I Know being great too. Solid, but nothing too special, a 7 out of 10 at best. Well, we made it to Pink Tape, the newest release of his projects. And once again, we're still stuck with the same problem. It's far too long and with too much fluff. Even though I still think it's a pretty solid album, I can understand why many people didn't like this album. Hot take. Pink Tape could have been just as good as Love is Rage 2. It had everything going for it. You had emotional songs like Rehab and Died and Came Back, hype songs like A, Flooded the Face, and Pluto to Mars, as well as other songs that you could put in any other genre you want. The problem is, they're all on the same album. There's too much rock or there's too much rap, depending on what you're looking for. Neither one is done to the perfection that either one would want, especially from a project this long and this hyped up. Overall, had Uzi just split this into 2 different projects, a deluxe and a regular, like the regular being 16 songs and 54 minutes, and the deluxe being 12 songs, I think everyone would have rather liked it that way instead of having one bloated mess of 28 songs. 6.5 out of 10.
Like a rodeo, right? Like a rodeo, baby.
After crunching the numbers, Uzi scrapes by with a B- overall in their discography. Now I'm going to rank all the projects from worst to best, starting with 1017 vs. the World is the worst project here, no questions asked. Number 12, Purple Thoughts EP. Number 11, The Real Uzi. Number 10, Pluto x Baby Pluto. Number 9, Pink Tape. Number 8, Red and White. Number 7, The Perfect Love Tape. Number 6, Eternal Take. Number 5, Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World 2. Number 4, Love is Rage. Number 3, Love is Rage 1.5. Number 2, Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World. Number 1, Love is Rage 2. Well, that's been my opinion, so let me know in the comments if you agree, and let me know if any other artists you want to see me do this for, doesn't matter what genre they're in. This has been Metal Man, I'll see you next time.
I made 50 bands off this laptop. I forgot, bitch up the price, she make it bad I was getting real. I forgot, I was at the gym.